The top stories tonight in Y News. More public utility vehicle drivers and operators will temporarily halt their operations amid the increasing fuel prices in the country.
Russia said it will help the Philippines find other sources of fuel in the face of rising oil prices and limited options.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government reiterates those who will intentionally violate the face mask mandate will be apprehended.
A Swedish arms watchdog says nuclear arsenals are expected to grow in coming years.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Monday, June 13, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am Herdine Delgado.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts. I am William Theo.
First in the news. More drivers and operators of public utility vehicles may be forced to stop operations starting tomorrow amid the increasing oil prices. But transport groups are hopeful that the drivers will continue to operate despite the circumstances. Asher Cadapan Jr. explains why.
Public utility vehicle drivers and operators face another hurdle as prices of petroleum products will increase anew. Effective tomorrow, prices of diesel will increase by 4 pesos and 30 centavos, while gasoline will increase by 2 pesos and 15 centavos and kerosene by 4 pesos and 85 centavos per liter. With the continuous oil price hike, some drivers say most of them can no longer carry on with their operation.
Siyempre sa taas ng gasolina, kaya po hindi nagbibiyahe yung mga ibang jeep. Kaya hirap-hirap bumiyahe, kaya wala din nagbibiyahe.
Hindi sir, kasi mataas ang diesel sir, kaya yung iba hindi na bumiyahe.
Some transport groups also fear that more PUV drivers, especially public utility jeepneys, will be forced to stop their operation as it can no longer provide for their families' needs. Manibela President Marval Buena, however, hopes that their members, especially drivers of public utility jeepneys, will be able to endure it primarily to help the public commuters.
Marami na po talaga yung unti-unti talaga na tumigil, Sir Asher, ng pagbiyahe. Hindi naman po natin mapigilan dahil hindi naman po natin kayang abunuhan yung kanilang lugi. Makikiusap pa rin tayo doon sana sa mga malalas ang ruta. Huwag natin pabayaan na walang masakyan yung ating mga kababayan.
The Pangkalahatang Sangguniang Manila and Suburbs Drivers Association or Pasang Mazda, on the other hand, commits to pursuing their fare hike petition.
Talagang kusang loob na tumitigil gawa ng walang kinikita. At ito rin po ang aming magiging dahilan during the hearing, kesa huminto ang mga driver namin sa pagmamaneho na walang kinikita, tulungan na kami sa pagkakataon nito.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board has set the next hearing for the fare hike petition on June 28. Asher Cadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Transportation assures the completion of one of the Philippines' largest infrastructure projects, the Metro Manila Subway Project. JP Nunez reports.
Boring machines were lowered at Valenzuela City to begin the construction of the first subway in the country, which aims to decongest heavy traffic in Metro Manila. It is part of the Build program under the Duterte administration, and the funds came from the Japanese government. The Department of Transportation assures that the 488 billion peso Metro Manila subway project will continue despite the transition of administration in less than a month. Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade explains that the funds to construct the Metro Manila subway stations is not dependent from the general appropriations.
Tuloy na tuloy yung Metro Manila Subway sa tatlong kadahilanan. Una ho, yung pondo sa proyektong ito, yung pondong kailangan ay nandiyan na. Nandiyan ho yung fund arrangement at loan support ng Government of Japan.
President Duterte hopes that infrastructure projects and transportation modernization during his term will be continued by the next admin, which is set to assume office in the next few weeks.
We will be welcoming the next administration with much warmth and hope that it will build on the foundations we have laid down in terms of infrastructure projects.
The Metro Manila subway is set to partially operate by the year 2025, while its full operation is set on 2027. On its full operation, it is expected to serve around 370,000 passengers on a daily basis. The underground rail line will stretch from Valenzuela City up to Terminal 3 of Ninoy Aquino International Airport in Pasay City. It aims to cut in half the travel from Quezon City to Naiya from 1 hour and 10 minutes to 35 minutes travel time. JP Nunez, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Asian Development Bank has assured the incoming administration of President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. of its strong commitment to supporting their development priorities. Meanwhile, Russia is willing to extend their help for the Philippines to meet its energy needs. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
Asian Development Bank President Masatsugu Asakawa met with President-elect Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. in his headquarters in Mandaluyong City. In a statement, the ADB chief assured Marcos of its commitment to support his administration's development priorities. Asakawa said the ADB is working closely with the government, development partners, and the private sector to support infrastructure investment, including projects under the government's Build, Build, Build program. Aside from the infrastructure sector, Asakawa said the ADB is also ready to support the Philippines in addressing climate change as well as programs in education and health sector. Meanwhile, the ambassadors of Egypt, Denmark, Israel, and Russia held separate meetings with President-elect Marcos. According to Russian Ambassador Marat Pavlov, they are willing to cooperate with the Philippines amid the spike of oil prices due to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine.
We are ready to cooperate with the Filipino side and to extend our helping hands to satisfy the needs in sources of energy.
Meanwhile, Danish Ambassador Grete Silesen discussed to Marcos Jr. about the renewable energy.
The sustainable use of energy so that we have green energies instead of fossil energies, but also, very importantly, that we are efficient with the energy that we are using.
Silesen said her meeting with Marcos Jr. focused on green transition. Denmark is a known pioneer in developing commercial wind power. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Rodrigo Duterte hopes for the peaceful resolution of conflicts happening in Europe and Asia. This as heavy battle rages on in Ukraine and relations between the world's great powers have deteriorated. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte hopes that the war between Russia and Ukraine will end soon. He warned that if Russia decides to use nuclear arms, it will be a real danger to the world. He made a statement during the commissioning of the barko ng Republika ng Pilipinas, Melchora Aquino in South Harbor, Manila yesterday. Also, he added the Philippines will not send gray ships to the West Philippine Sea to prevent armed conflict with China.
But we cannot afford fighting with China. We cannot win and we will lose and the population will suffer. The Filipino nation would be in a very tight situation, a quandary of how to go about, I said, navigating the geopolitical issues in Europe and here, Taiwan. I'm praying that this can be sorted out by just talking.
A leading conflict and armaments think tank Stockholm International Peace Research Institute has warned all of the nuclear-armed states are increasing or upgrading their nuclear arsenals. Also, the risk of such weapons being used is in the first time since the Cold War. Meanwhile, China also said it will not hesitate to fight if anyone dares to secede Taiwan from China. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Rodrigo Duterte will attend the inauguration of his daughter, Vice President-elect Sara Duterte Carpio, according to a Malacanang official. The inauguration will be held in Davao City on Sunday, June 19, 2022. The outgoing president was invited by his daughter, who will be sworn in as the 15th Vice President by Supreme Court Justice Ramon Paul Hernando.
The Philippine National Police, or PNP, dares the driver of the sports utility vehicle implicated in the hit and run of a security guard in Mandaluyong City to surrender to authorities. Leia Ilagan reports.
Philippine National Police Officer in Charge, Police Lieutenant General Vicente Danao Jr. dared the SUV driver in a hit-and-run incident in Mandaluyong to prove that he is not a drug addict. This after the suspect failed to turn himself in to authorities.
Ikaw, china-challenge kita, Mr. San Vicente. Ayaw mong sumurrender, tama. O isa lang sasabihin ko sa'yo, baka addict ka. O ba't ayaw mo sumurrender? Because no person in his right senses will do that. Nakabangga ka na nga ng tao, imbes na hintuhan mo, lalo mo pang sinagasaan. Ano klaseng utak yan? O di ba? Baka gumagamit ka, kaya ayaw mo sumurrender.
The PNP officer in charge revealed that this is not the first time that the suspect got involved in a vehicular accident. He said, based on the background check by the police, the SUV driver had a similar case of reckless imprudence. The PNP still awaits for the warrant of arrest to be issued by the court against the suspect.
Now, ayaw mo magpakita, napakasimpleng problema naman sana na kaya pa nating ayusin, ayaw mo magpakita. So you wait for your warrant of arrest to come out. So hintayin mo yung warrant of arrest. San Vicente, yung apelyido mo, di ba? Huwag ka lang sana maging Santo Vicente.
Meanwhile, the Land Transportation Office has revoked the license of the SUV driver perpetually. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, says that the face mask mandate will continue to be implemented in the National Capital Region. Also, the Department of the Interior and local government says those who will intentionally violate the face mask mandate will be apprehended. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Metropolitan Manila Development Authority Chairman Attorney Romando Artes said that Metro Manila Mayor's meeting will be on Wednesday. However, he said that some mayors expressed their support to Cebu Governor Gwen Garcia to make wearing of face masks optional in open spaces and outdoor setting. Based on the Interagency Task Force policy, wearing of face masks is mandatory, so this remains to be implemented in the National Capital Region.
Hindi pa naman po lifted ang state of emergency natin gawa ng COVID. Kailangan pa rin po tayong mag-ingat at bilang pagsunod sa kautusan ng IATF, dapat pa rin po tayong magsuot ng face mask.
Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, Undersecretary Epimaco Densing III reiterates there's also a legal basis for authorities to apprehend individuals who will violate the face mask mandate in Cebu. Undersecretary Densing said the country is still in state of public health emergency and the IATF has a mandate to protect Filipinos against COVID-19.
Kung may dalang face mask yung ating kapulisan, bigyan po sila ng face mask. Pero kung talagang sinasadya po ng ating kababayan na hindi sundin ang isang kautusan ng isang persons of authority, itong ating mga kapulisan, yung ating mga barangay, na sila'y magsuot ng face mask at patuloy nilang ayaw talagang sundin, yun po ang basihan ng pag-aaresto, ang hindi pagsunod sa mga taong may otoridad.
This is the DILG's remark after Cebu Governor Gwen Garcia's statement to make wearing of face masks optional and especially outdoors. According to the Philippine National Police and the Department of Health, any law imposed by the national government should be observed by all sectors, including local government units.
Pag yung tao ay ayaw gumamit ng face mask, it is a risk to take. Okay? So nasa inyo yan kung gusto ninyong hindi na gumamit ng face mask, pero you have a risk to take. 1, risk of apprehension. 2, risk of getting the sickness. So simple as that.
RA 11332, notifiable diseases. Kung meron hong public health emergency, the national government has that authority to issue protocols. And these protocols should be complied with by all sectors, including local government.
Aside from COVID-19, the DOH reminds the importance of face masks against infectious diseases like monkeypox. The people should also be protected against the more transmissible Omicron subvariants already detected in the country, like BA.2.12.1, BA.4, and BA.5. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Department of Justice clarifies that the resolution released by the IATF prevails over the executive order of Cebu Governor Gwen Garcia on optional wearing a face mask in well-ventilated and open spaces. Dante Almento tells us why.
Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara explains that under the Constitution, the President exercises general supervision over local governments. In the IATF resolutions on the mandatory wearing of face masks, whether indoor or outdoor, are incorporated or enabled by executive orders by President Rodrigo Duterte. Thus, Guevara stresses that with regards to the resolutions released by the IATF, which composed of cabinet secretaries which are alter egos of the President, against the executive orders issued by local government units, the former will prevail. This was Guevara's reaction when asked which will prevail between the resolution issued by the IATF and the executive order released by Cebu Governor Gwen Garcia. In an ITF Resolution number 150 issued last November 25, 2021, it stressed the strict compliance of the minimum public health standards such as wearing of face masks. All local government units were directed for the proper enforcement thereof. But in a recent Executive Order number 16 by Garcia, the wearing of face masks shall be required only in closed or air-conditioned areas, and these shall be optional in well-ventilated and open spaces. Dante Almento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority says there is still a possibility that Metro Manila might shift to Alert Level 2. However, it will still be unlikely despite the gradual increase of COVID-19 cases. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
Shifting from one alert level system to another depends on the parameters laid out by the Interagency Task Force. Parameters include the increase of cases, the average daily attack rate, and hospitalization rate. The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority said, based on the current situation in Metro Manila, implementing stricter alert level system in the region is still unlikely.
Yes, that possibility always kasi nga po sinasabi namin na naandyan pa rin po yung ating virus. Pero hindi naman po ibig sabihin noon na apat na sa level 2. Malayo pa po tayo doon sa panuntunan para maging alert level 2 po ang NCR.
In a statement, the Department of Health also observed the gradual increase of COVID-19 cases based on the IATF guidelines. However, the Health Department clarified Alert Level 1 is still in effect as long as the admissions and severity of cases in the hospitals do not affect hospital utilization rate. The department adds there are still low severe cases in hospitals. Vaccine expert panel member and infectious disease expert Dr. Ronjin Solante also shares the same opinion on the COVID-19 situation in Metro Manila. However, the government should remain prepared and continue monitoring COVID-19 cases.
Let's prepare the healthcare system. Kasi yun naman talaga ang pinaka-ugat nito na pag na-overwhelm yung healthcare utilization natin, doon tayo magka-problema dahil maraming pasyente na hindi makapasok at pwedeng magdulot ng more severe infection. No? We still have to maintain the room allocation of the hospitals.
Meanwhile, by next week, the Interagency Task Force will discuss the alert level system to be implemented in various regions, including Metro Manila. Eileen Sarudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
There is no indication for now that Mount Bulusan's abnormal activity will result to a more dangerous eruption. From Sorsogon City, Alan Manansala tells us why live. Yes, Alan?
Arlene, good evening. A magmatic eruption of Mount Bulusan is still unlikely for now. Based on the data gathered by PHIVOLCS, the seismic activities are only concentrated within the crater area.
So wala pa tayong nakikitang magma sa ngayon, nasa ngayon. Hindi natin alam kung ano yung susunod. So kaya patuloy natin i-monitor ang kondisyon ng Bulusan kung uuwi sa magmatic eruption to. Pero sa ngayon, wala pa tayong nakikita.
The PHIVOLCS specialist, however, says phreatic explosions are possible within hours or days as the volcanic or the volcano remains active. Based on the PHIVOLCS latest bulletin, there are 106 volcanic earthquakes recorded in the past 24 hours. There are also 48 volcanic tremors with over 4,600 tons of sulfur dioxide emissions. Meanwhile, some elderly residents of Barangay Puting Sapa feel they are safe in the evacuation centers where they intend to stay in the next few days.
Okay naman, kahit kung di pa kami pahalion, di okay lang man.
They agree with the local government's decision to have them evacuated early on, though they have some concerns.
Mabuti naman. Kaya lang nandito kami sa labas dahil na mainit dun sa loob.
Harlan, there are 73 families staying at a Tughan Evacuation Center in Huban, Sorsogon. Other families were brought to Tughan Elementary School and Huban Gymnasium. Harleen.
Thank you, Alan Manansala, reporting live from Sorsogon City.
For the news abroad, China's military progress was addressed by the nation's defense minister over the weekend, which was seen to be a potential warning to Taiwan. Marvin Delphine will give us the details live. Good evening, Marvi.
Good evening, Elsie. Chinese Defense Minister Wei Fenghe announced the progress China made in developing new nuclear weapons at the Shangri-La Dialogue at Singapore. While the impressive progress was developed over the past 5 decades, Minister Wei reassured delegates of China's nuclear weapon policy, which they only reserve weapons for the nation's defense. According to Minister Wei, China's only aim is to maintain the nation's stability, contrary to the remarks U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin made relating to China's desire to keep their sovereignty over Taiwan, reasoning that if Taiwan were to gain their own independence away from China, the nation will take military action and fight at any cost, Wei said. Meanwhile, Su Chen-chang, Taiwanese premier, has expressed the willingness to remain in good terms with China so long as they uphold and reciprocate equality. Elsie?
Thank you, Marvin Delphine, for that live report. South Korea will boost defense capacity and work closely with United States and Japan to deter North Korea's nuclear and missile threat. Ruth Bahe will tell us why live. Yes, Ruth?
Also, North Korea's nuclear and missile threat was the key topic of discussion between the defense ministers of South Korea, US, and Japan at the Shangri-La Dialogue or Security Forum in Singapore over the weekend. In a joint statement, the ministers shared their deep concerns over the grave threat that North Korea's weapons and ballistic missiles program bring to international peace and stability. Therefore, they pledged to address these concerns through concerted trilateral cooperation. South Korea's Defense Minister Lee Jong-suk added that they will strengthen their capabilities to implement the U.S. extended deterrence, along with the South Korean military responses to deter North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. The three countries plan to participate in ballistic missile exercises and trilateral exercises. Meanwhile, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un vowed to his ruling party that he would use power to fight threats against their country. North Korea has launched at least 18 rounds of ballistic missile testing this year, emphasizing its advancing nuclear and missile weapons. Elsie?
Thank you, Ruth Bahe, for that live report. Hong Kong has reported more than 800 COVID-19 cases for second straight day, while the number of imported infections entered the triple digits for the first time since the start of the pandemic more than 2 years ago. The Center for Health Protection warns cities should prepare for infections to climb higher, noting the risk of community transmission had increased as people socialized more. Meanwhile, outgoing leader Carrie Lam warned that further delays in fully reopening Hong Kong to visitors, its status as an international financial hub, will be affected. While Hong Kong has loosened its COVID-19 travel restrictions, the requirement for incoming travelers to spend 1 week in a designated quarantine hotel still makes the city's policy among the strictest in the world. Senators in the United States have announced a framework to address gun violence in the country. Joselito Liquido will give us the details live. Yes, Joselito, go ahead.
Good evening, Elsie. The initial agreement for the gun law reform came after the recent shootings in Texas, Buffalo, New York, and in other parts of the United States. The framework includes measured gun curbs and aims to improve safety at school and mental health programs. According to the leaders of the bipartisan group Chris Murphy and John Cornyn, the plan will save lives protecting the constitutional rights of law-abiding Americans. The proposal, however, falls short of the tougher rules long sought by Democrats and President Joe Biden, who stated that the framework does not do everything that is needed but reflects important steps in the right directions. He also acknowledges that this would be the most significant gun safety legislation to be passed in decades. The details and legislative language of the framework will be written over the coming days, according to Senate negotiators. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Joselito Liquido, for that live report. Millions of people in the United States of America are expected to feel excessive heat this summer, particularly those residing in the western part of the country. Beverly Saison will tell us why.
About 50 million people are expected to feel the summer heat in the western half of the United States. These include the southwestern Nebraska, California, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, Oklahoma, and Louisiana, where the temperature could reach over 100 degrees at any given time. Which is why the National Weather Service, or NWS, is warning people, especially the young children, elderly adults, and people with other health issues, to slow down and only engage in straining activities during the coolest periods of the day. Avoid being exposed to the sun and heat for a long period of time, and drink plenty of water for sufficient hydration. Some of the illnesses related to excessive heat are heat stroke, heat exhaustion, heat cramps, sunburn, and heat rash. Around the same time last year, many states in the Northwest, such as Oregon and Washington, have experienced similar high temperatures all the way up to 118 degrees. Nothing less is expected this year from these places and the others mentioned earlier. Authorities advise affected residents to stay cool and hydrated to ensure that the summer heat will not get them ill. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Elsie Marcos, live from Auckland, New Zealand. Good evening.
Outgoing Senate President Vicente Sotto III is leaving it up to the next Senate leadership on who will lead the powerful Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
Senate President Vicente Sotto III is confident that his presumptive successor, Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Zubiri, will resolve the issue on the chairpersonship of the Senate Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations, commonly known as Blue Ribbon. This comes after returning Senator and Taguig Pateros Representative Alan Peter Cayetano revealed that Zubiri had asked him to join the majority bloc and that he may be willing if the Blue Ribbon chairpersonship will be given to him. However, according to Zubiri, it was already offered to incumbent Senator Francis Tolentino, who accepted the post.
3 years ago, Senator Tolentino was eyeing that particular committee, if I recall it right. So, ngayon na may pagkakataon, in-offer sa kanya, I'm sure tatanggapin yan at tinanggap na. No? The problem is if that is the same committee that Senator Cayetano is interested in to join the majority, things sometimes in the Senate settle on its own. Tingnan natin, Senator Zubiri would know what to do.
In an earlier statement, Zubiri said he would consult with the members of the so-called supermajority on the request of Cayetano, noting that it is not his decision to make at this moment. The Blue Ribbon handles the probe of malfeasance and allegations of anomalies by government officials and employees and agencies. An investigation of any matter of public interest on its own initiative are brought to its attention by any member of the Senate. Meanwhile, Senator Richard Gordon, who led the committee in the recently concluded 18th Congress, stressed that the next Blue Ribbon chairperson must be independent-minded. For the veteran senator, the next head of the committee should not accept the post if he or she cannot conduct a probe once the president or the administration itself is already involved. The 19th Congress will open on July 25, where the committee chairpersonships will be voted on and finalized. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources reminds the public to strictly follow implemented protocols while inside the vicinity of Manila Bay Dolomite Beach. Janice and Henter reports.
Now that the Dolomite Beach sand in Manila Bay was reopened to the public, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources reminds visitors and tourists that throwing garbage inside the white sand beach is strictly prohibited. That is why food inside the Manila Bay is strictly not allowed, as well as bringing of pets. Smoking or vaping are also banned, while mandatory wearing of face mask and physical distancing must be followed. The DNR also deployed Steno Rangers to maintain the cleanliness of Manila Bay and to ensure that the protocols will strictly be imposed.
Pagka meron po kaming nakitang nagtatapon ng basura, pwede po namin silang picturean at i-report po sa pinakamataas sa DNR po.
Meanwhile, although everyone can now enter in the Manila Bay without age limits, the DNR reminds the public its waters have not yet been deemed safe for recreational swimming.
Ayaw namin magkasakit naman yung mga kababayan natin. We have to monitor that bago natin i-allow itong mga tao ay pwede na maligo. Itong Manila Bay, maraming pinanggagalingan ng dumi. Hindi lang dyan sa yung mga hotel dyan. Yung mga hotel dyan, ayos na namin yan. Ang problema namin, yung mga maliliit na kanal na galing sa mga bahay-bahay. Kung maayos natin yung maayos natin, na inaayos natin ngayon, ay pwede na siguro. Hindi na magtatagal.
The Dolomite Beach is open to the public every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with 3,500 persons allowed to enter at a given time. Janice and Hente, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Our Kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the global prayer for humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International.
Before we close, we will leave you with a word, giving glory to God. From the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 14, it says, "Follow peace with all men, and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord." And those are the reasons behind the news, June 13, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Harleen Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.